Welcome to your last unit in taxi and private hire training. I'm going to refer to this as Unit 9, Safely Transport School-Aged Children. 3 outcomes on this unit. Know the role and responsibility of the qualified driver and his or her escort when undertaking the transport of school-aged children. Second outcome, know the importance of good communications and contingency planning when transporting school-aged children. And thirdly, know how to safeguard school-aged children from potential abuse and harm. Outcome 1. Know the role and responsibilities of the qualified driver and escort when undertaking the transport of school-aged children. Within this unit, we're going to talk about vehicle safety, which we covered in Unit 4, your duty of care, especially when carrying school-aged children, and the seatbelt law, which we covered in Unit 2. Drivers who are transporting children have special responsibilities, as the safety and welfare of children is absolutely paramount. It is your duty of care to look after and take care of the children at all times. This unit provides practical guidance for drivers who are involved in the transport of children and young people within, for example, the local education, school or social service contracts. Local Education Authority is commonly referred to as the LEA. Operators private hire bases, vehicles and drivers who are contracted by a local authority or LEA to transport children and young people, including those with special educational needs, will be expected to have procedures and policies in place to ensure that vehicles are A, roadworthy, serviceable and fit for purpose. That vehicle has to be safe to carry children. So you do your walk round checks, your daily walk round checks. Should you find a fault with that vehicle, you take it off the road. You have to have a contingency plan, i.e. a backup vehicle, so that those children are able to get to school. You must carry all ancillary equipment that you may need, especially if you have a disabled child in a wheelchair, such as ramps, restraining devices. You will need communication equipment so you can be contacted at all times, all of which need to be operating correctly and therefore safely. Vehicles are obviously road taxed and have a current DVSA inspection certificate, and you need to hold the correct insurance as requested by your local authority or LEA. They will want to look at your insurance certificate to see what cover you have. You may have to upgrade the cover. So, vehicle safety. Before a vehicle is used for transporting children and young people, it is essential that the daily walk-round inspection is carried out by the responsible person, which will be the driver. As I've said, should you find a fault on that vehicle, you take it out of service, replace it with another vehicle. So the inspection pattern follows that as set out in Unit J1 MC54, which I refer to as Unit 4, with the driver paying particular attention to those components that may have particular safety implications. For example, child-proof locks and, of course, seat belts. Walk-around inspections. Make sure the vehicle's legal, fully roadworthy. All your actions are lawful. All onboard equipment is there in place and is serviceable, ready to use. You must never ever compromise your safety or obviously the children's safety. As we've covered in previous units, if you rent the vehicle, the owner is responsible for ensuring that the vehicle remains legal and safe. So if you find a fault, report it to the owner so he can get it fixed at his garage with his mechanic. But when you're driving that car, the responsibility for that vehicle and the safety of it is that of the driver. If an inspection of that vehicle requires a prohibition notice to be served on the vehicle, the local authority or local education authority that contract will probably be withdrawn. So should you get a PG9I, a serious safety fault with a DVSA official or the police, find a serious safety fault when inspecting the vehicle, you will lose the contract because the safety of the children is absolutely paramount. Special event vehicles. These vehicles are often booked by parents for young people on the way to parties or graduation balls, of which there are many nowadays. The vehicle will have to meet, obviously, local licensing conditions, statutory regulations, including type approval and road vehicle construction and use regulations of 1986. And should there be more than 8 passengers, the requirement to have a PCV license with a licensed PC driver if seats more than 8 passengers as mentioned. The DVSA, after initial inspection, will release an individual approval certificate or certificate of initial fitness as appropriate. The certificate of initial fitness applies to passengers having more than 8 passenger seats. So we're talking about stretch limousines, really. I've got an example on the side there that's been cut out of a newspaper in South Wales, where there were many faults found on a stretch limousine carrying children to a primary school. You should know the legal requirements now for wearing seat belts, which covered in Unit 2. We went through it specifically at the time. So don't forget, the law requires all children traveling in cars to use the correct child restraint until they are either 1.35 meters or 135 centimeters in height or reaching the age of 12, whichever is first. After that, they need to use the adult seat belt. Up to the age of 14, the legal responsibility for ensuring that children wear their seat belt is on the driver. I would stress, however, to check your LEA contract, particularly if you're carrying children with special educational needs. They may be over the age of 14, but it may stipulate in that contract that it's the driver's responsibility to ensure that seatbelts are worn at all times. This would supersede the law regarding seatbelts. You have a duty of care, as you're well aware by now. To avoid problems and accusations of negligence at work, the operator and their drivers must be able to demonstrate that they act or behave in a reasonable and responsible way. For example, the vehicle is regularly maintained and serviced. You carry all the equipment necessary for emergencies, such as a fire extinguisher. You can use all the onboard equipment perfectly. It's no good having it if you don't know how to use it. Familiarize yourself, for instance, with the fire extinguisher. Also, train your escort or assistant on how to use the fire extinguisher. You must drive with care and consideration for your passengers and other road users. You have children on board, so you must take extra care. You must have contingency measures in place. So, should you not be well one day or have certain appointments you need to take care of, you need to have a backup driver. As we've already mentioned, you need to have a backup vehicle. Should there be an escort or assistant on the job, you need to have a backup escort or assistant. That child has to get to school. Whilst the local authority may put certain restrictions on you when you're applying for your driver's license, i.e. your taxi or private hire license, the LEA may put other restrictions on it too. So I'll give you some examples that the LEA might do. You might have to be a certain age, over 21, over 25, for instance. You may need to go on a basic first aid course, and your assistant may need to go on a basic first aid course too. They want experienced drivers when handing out tenders for these school contracts. So it may be they will only look at people that have held their private hire or taxi license for 3 years or even 5 years. In some areas, you may have to demonstrate a high standard of driving. I know that some LEAs will want you to go on an advanced driving course. You must be competent in using any of your ancillary equipment, such as your ramps and wheelchairs. And once again, I do know that some licensing authorities will want you to go along before handing a contract out to you to demonstrate that you are competent in using all that equipment. You need to understand the special needs of some children and students for their comfort and safety. The only way you can understand the special needs of certain children you may be transporting is by speaking to the parents, guardians, or carers. They will tell you some of the little idiosyncrasies that the child is perceptible to. You must always wear your license badge issued by the licensing authority. You are going onto school premises. The people at the school need to know that you are authorized to be there. Always wear your badge. Outcome 2. Know the importance of good communications and contingency planning when transporting school-aged children. Your role and responsibility and that of your assistant or escort, communication skills, appropriate behaviour and limits of your authority, and, as I've mentioned, contingency plans. Role and responsibilities. Prior to working with children and vulnerable groups, a licensed driver and their escort will require an enhanced disclosure barring service check. Not a standard one, an enhanced one. The majority of local authorities will carry out an enhanced DBS check anyway. Once that check is carried out, you are registered with the DBS service scheme. Should you have an escort or assistant, they're employed to assist the driver. They're also subject to that DBS check. In some areas, they may have to go on a day's safeguarding course, as does the driver. They may be required to hold a current first aid certificate. They have to be familiar with the fire extinguisher and the first aid kit, if there's one carried in the vehicle. And they must also wear their identification badge that is issued by the LEA. Contractors, which is usually the operator, they're the ones that normally tender for jobs through the LEA, should protect their public liability insurance by ensuring that all drivers and personnel have their criminal records check disclosed to the licensing authority. So as we said, you have an enhanced DBS check. Your role and responsibility as a driver. A, you obviously need to drive professionally. You need to have the ability to plan ahead, maybe picking up 3 or even 4 children, what route you take, which child will you pick up first. Obviously, you need to communicate to the parents or guardians what time you would be picking up and what time you'd be dropping off. Should your plans change because a child needs dropping off earlier or picking up earlier, you need to be able to communicate to the parents the revised time. So ability to plan ahead is very important. You must make sure all your passengers are seated and wearing their seat belts. So it may be you have an assistant or escort that they fasten the seat belts on behalf of the children. It is still your responsibility to check that the seat belts are fastened before you drive off. You must be able to maintain discipline so that you're not distracted from driving and you can maintain your concentration on the road. You must report any incidents. Incidents are anything that happen out of the ordinary. So you report it to the contract provider, which is either your dispatch office or directly to the LEA. Incidents can include sickness, bad behavior, allegations, etc., or even observations you've made of the child. Always check the head count. If you're in a minibus and picking up 7 or 8 children, make sure you pick up 7 or 8 children at pickup and also at drop off, that no one's hiding behind in your minibus. I can assure you it has happened. It may be it's a one-off job where you're picking up on at school on an extracurricular activity such as sport or music. You may not know the children. You just have a list of names and addresses. Check all tickets and identities with a responsible adult so that you can get the correct children. Obviously, make sure your vehicle is safely prepared, as we've covered. Now, you must maintain a safe and friendly environment. Now, that word friendly, yes, of course, you want to befriend the child and you want the child to befriend you. However, no arms around the child, no patting on the head, no touching, etc. These could lead to allegations. But you certainly want the child to trust you and to be able, he wants to know, he or she needs to know if you're able to look after them in certain situations. Should you have an escort, or nowadays more commonly referred to as an assistant, they will achieve a safely and friendly environment on board your car. A child will feel more secure when you have an assistant with you. Should you require them to do so, they will assist with boarding and alighting of those children, helping the children into the car, helping the children out of the car. Again, should you wish them to, they will assist with your ramps and wheelchairs. So they need to have training to do so. They will secure the children's seatbelts. You will check that they are fastened. They will maintain discipline so that you are not distracted while you're driving. Should your escort not be able to maintain discipline whilst you are driving, you need to stop the vehicle in a safe place so that you can assist your escort in maintaining discipline with the children. You do not drive if you are distracted. It is too dangerous. They will escort the children to and from the vehicle to school, or in the afternoon to the homes or to the parent or guardians. When that child is handed over to another adult, not only is your assistant or yourself handing over the child, you're also handing over responsibility of that child to another adult, and your duty of care is ended at that point. Yourself and your assistant must ensure children are delivered at the stopping point, not at the school gates, not at the end of the road, handed over to a responsible adult. Communication, a very important word. New drivers to school contract work should start off by making a good impression with the client group, which is, of course, school, college, parents, teachers, and especially and most importantly, the children or young persons. Should there be any problems, you need to communicate with the right people what the problem is. Your vehicle should have a minimum as a radio link so that the dispatch office can contact you. I say a minimum. Nowadays, you would have a mobile phone in your vehicle. Don't forget the hands-free rules. Keep within the statutory legislation for all mobile phones. So hands-free with an earpiece, so it's not an open mic, so the child passengers in the car can't hear what the other party is saying to you. If at all possible, try not to speak on the phone while you've got children in. Only do so in emergencies where you need to contact people or they need to contact you. Obviously, nowadays it's £200 fine and 6 points on your DVLA license. Should you be found to be using your mobile phone when it's not hands-free. Appropriate behaviour and limits of your authority. If it's necessary to assist the child to board or disembark from the vehicle, please take care to maintain the dignity of that young child or person. It may be they have some sort of impairment and have difficulty getting out of your vehicle. Park up in such a way so that they're not on full display to the rest of the children in and around the playground or the school area. Maintain their dignity so that they're not embarrassed as you help them out of the vehicle. Use child-proof locks on your vehicle to ensure safety and control of events. So you have control of the windows. Should it be a hot day and the children want the windows open, you control that from the front and only open them 3 or 4 inches. The thing is, as well with electric windows, some are touch sensitive and will stop. Others will carry on, so there could be trapped fingers or even strangulation. Children in the rear of your vehicle will mess with buttons. So besides the childproof locks, you keep control of your electric windows from the front. Misbehavior, sickness, etc. Always select a stopping place that is safe, legal, and convenient, so you can deal with the problem or assist the child. If an escort is part of that contract, never ever start your journey without them. You're breaking the terms of the contract. You would have no insurance. It is illegal. So should your escort be ill or not able to come along with you, you need to have that contingency plan of a backup assistant escort. Always follow the criteria set by your base and the terms of the contract of the LEA. Appropriate behaviour and limits of your authority. In a very difficult area, it is important to know that we have the basic right to use reasonable force to defend ourselves or protect another passenger. However, that force must not exceed what is necessary to protect ourselves or the other passengers, drivers, or escorts. You can use restraint should that child possibly hurt themselves or others. Restraint is holding the child firmly, but not using any more force than is necessary. Timetabling. Very important that that child gets to school on time. Very important that that child gets home on time because the parents might worry. So if anything goes wrong, communicate. If you are constantly late, you will get complaints from the parents and possibly from the school. Especially if you've got an autistic child. They don't want to be late on drop-off or pick-up. They are used to routine. They may start to panic. If you're late on a pickup, the danger is that the child could wander off from the appointed pickup place. It could also cause anxiety and worry for the child and for the parents. So always communicate should there be something going wrong. You will lose business if you don't communicate. So maintain close liaison. Liaison is contacting people to and fro, either the school or the parents. Try not to vary your route without permission. Once again, should you have an autistic child on board, this could cause panic or anxiousness. Ensure the children are not dropped off at a distance from the appointed place just because you're late and you want to save time. Safety is the issue. If you are late, communicate. Should you have another job straight after your school run, communicate with your next customer and let them know you're going to be late. Do not rush. You have a duty of care. If you rush, you will take more risks and accidents can happen. Should you have a number of pickups, always make sure that you're punctual at the first pickup point. If you're not punctual at the first pickup point, you'll be late for the rest. What happens is if you are punctual at the first pickup point, but the child is not ready, if you are on time, the designated time that you arrange with that parent, you may be able to give them a couple of minutes, but certainly no more than that because you'll be late for the other children. That is an incident which you would need to communicate with the dispatch office or the LEA. Always carry a charged up mobile in case of an emergency. Always have a pre-prepared contingency plan if there's a problem with vehicles or manpower, as we've said. So good timekeeping is absolutely essential for maintaining confidence in the service. Maintain close contact with your dispatch office to alert the company of any potential problems. Obviously, if you've got a specified vehicle or a special vehicle, such as an accessible vehicle, should a replacement vehicle be needed, it has to be the same specification as the one you are using. Vehicle breakdown is as in Unit 4. Safely position your vehicle to limit any danger. Use your hazard lights. Evacuate children from the near side and position them out of danger, hopefully under the supervision of an assistant, should you have one with you. You must wear your high-vis jacket. If possible, Place a warning triangle 50 paces to the rear of the vehicle, but never on a motorway. You could only place your triangle out should you have an assistant with you. If you haven't got an assistant, you would need to stay with the children. If your vehicle is in a hazardous situation, contact the police so they can do traffic management and warn other motorists. Protect and reassure your passengers. They are children. Reassure them that another vehicle is on the way. Reassure them that you have told the school or their parents that they're going to be late. Contact the office for advice and wait with those passengers. Look after their welfare. It is your duty of care. Sometimes there's unexpected problems. Emergencies arise that require the use of your contingency plan. These include unforeseen delays such as roadworks. If you're aware of existing roadworks, before you set out for the job, set out a little bit earlier. The child needs to get to school on time. Exactly the same reason for poor weather conditions. Ice, snow, rain, fog. It tends to take longer to get to your destination. Set out a little bit earlier. Vehicle breakdown. Have a spare vehicle or a spare driver with another vehicle. Unwell child or passenger. Should your child be unwell on the way to school, communicate. Stop the vehicle. Look after the child. Phone the parent. The parent then will usually make their own contingency plan, saying such things as, stay where you are, I'll come and pick him or her up. Bring them home, he wasn't well this morning. Take them to A&E if it's an emergency. I will meet you there, etc. After school, when you come to drop the children off, the parent or approved guardian is not there to receive the child. Once again, phone the parent, see how long they're going to be. If you have other children on board, you'll need to plan ahead. Change your plans. Drop the other children off and come back with the child whose parents are not there. Should that parent say, take them to Mrs. Jones around the corner, you cannot do so. But there is a way around it. You could ask the parent to phone Mrs. Jones around the corner and phone you back. And if she accepts responsibility for taking their child, you would need to phone your dispatch office or the LEA to get permission to do so. Parent or guardian might not be there, but a sibling might be there, an elder sibling. Depending on the age, once again, you would have to get LEA approval before you drop that child off. You have a duty of care to look after that child. So, contingency plans includes always communication. Good communication links between the driver, operator, school, and parents. For example, communicating a problem or emergency in a timely fashion as soon as possible will alert your company or the LEA to the best procedure to be adopted in that situation. Communicating any delays or sickness to the parent will reduce stress and anxiety and also demonstrates that you, as a driver, care about their child. Demonstrates your customer care skills. Communicating a problem or an emergency to a parent, allow them, as I've already said, to make their own contingency plans so that they can deal with the situation or that you can deal with it between you. And I've also said, if you're late, you must never compromise your driving skill to make up for lost time. Do not speed. Do not take risks. You have a child on board. It is your duty of care. So, contingency plans. Any problems? Contact the base if it's their contract. You must carry details of all phone numbers and contact names of parents and guardians and even the school. They must also have your number should they need to contact you in an emergency or to let you know that the child is not going to school that day or there's an alternative arrangement. Procedures to be followed in the event of emergency or problem. What I've said about communication. Usually parents will make their own plans and advise you of what they wish you to do. An acceptable waiting period for a child, parent or guardian. If it's just one child that you are picking up and taking to school, and you turn up in the morning and they are not ready, you should wait until that child is ready. However, it may state in your contract that there is a maximum waiting time, for instance, of 15 minutes. Should that child not be ready within 15 minutes, then you would have to pull off the job. You would still get paid for the job and for your waiting time. It is not your fault that the child was not ready. Equally, parents or guardians not at home. How long do you wait? Well, again, it might, in your contract, state an acceptable waiting period or give you an alternative drop-off point. These are incidents and need to be reported to your dispatch office, your company, or the LEA, depending who the contract provider is. Should you reroute the vehicle for a later drop-off time? You are dropping 3 or 4 children off, and one needs to be dropped off earlier than he would normally. So the child you would drop off first, you may be dropping off last. You need to communicate that rerouting to the parents. I would also advise you to let the dispatch office know that you are rerouting and tell them the reason why you are rerouting. You may have an emergency number to be called if there's no contact can be made with the parent or guardian. So there might be another neighbour or a close family member nearby that is you're allowed to drop off, and it's stated so in your contract. Outcome 3. Know how to safeguard school-aged children from potential abuse and harm. We're going to go through safeguarding, and we're going to talk about reporting of incidents. The driver should give children safety training and instructions around busy school gates and around vehicles. So they will also be given safety training instructions by the school and the teachers themselves. As a driver, children should be informed of the dangers of playing behind your vehicle, the dangers of using powered switches, such as the window switches, the electric window switches. As I've mentioned, a lot of them are not touch sensitive, and it could lead to strangulation. You must never allow a child to interfere with the vehicle or the driver's controls. So should the child be sat in the front, he's over 12, he or she is over 12 or over 1.35 meters, don't let them interfere with any of your controls, even if it's just the radio. If you drive a hybrid vehicle where it's very silent running, alert the children to its danger that the engine is running. They must follow safety instructions on entering and leaving the vehicle, particularly with a minibus. If you're picking up a number of children, they may want to race to go to their favorite seat. You must give them instructions on safe entering or leaving, not blocking any aisles or exits with their school bags as well. Do not leave your ignition keys in your vehicle. You are taking children with special educational needs to certain establishments. It may be that the children have behavioral problems and get in your car. Keep your vehicle locked. You don't want anything stolen or interfered with. Before driving out of the school car park, ensure there are no children in the danger zone. They are very busy areas at schools. I would advise you that you reverse into your parking place so that you can drive out safely afterwards, especially if you're a bigger vehicle like an SUV or a minibus. Much more care is needed in those situations. So safe boarding and alighting, getting in and out of your vehicle should always be overseen. All children are counted for by head counting. This is especially true in a minibus, of course. In your saloon car, glass visibility is maintained, so the rear window shelf kept clear of any obstructions, no bags or lunch boxes on there, so it doesn't come forward as a missile, which you have to brake in emergency, or it doesn't restrict your visibility through your rear view. The drop-offs, make sure there's no children hiding or left behind in the vehicle. An assistant. Many young children who look lost or uninsured may need special attention, especially if they're traveling with you for the first time, going to a new school. It's a brand new environment for you. They may be nervous anyway. Their special need may make them nervous, again, such as autism. When you have an escort or an assistant, they will give that child an extra sense of security. Now, whilst the child may be nervous, it may be nervous at the fact that there's older children at the new school they're going to. They could have travel sickness. They could be simply missing their parents. They could be subject to bullying from older children. The driver and escort who are under contract from the local authority, the LEA, to transport children to and from school have, in many cases, the legal status of in loco parentis. That is, you are literally there in place of the parent. So whilst you have a duty of care, which is also a legal requirement, the standard of care is greater for children with special needs. Carrying school children, having that contract, you are in loco parentis, there in place of the parent. So, certain do's and certain don'ts. Do be friendly, but as I've said, not over friendly. You do want that child to trust you and your assistant. Don't be gruff and untalkative. Yeah, if the child wants to talk, talk to them. So do be a listener. Take time. Remain calm. Don't hurry that child along when they're talking and tell them to get the end of what they're talking about, showing impatience. Think carefully of the consequences of your actions. You are a responsible adult. You're acting in front of children. So that don't overreact. It could be something like road rage to other motorists. Those children in your vehicle witness how you react. Give explanations if asked. Don't ignore requests. Now, some requests you may need to ignore. Well, I say ignore, not carry out, such as, can you stop for crisps and a fizzy drink? You would explain to the child, you cannot stop because you need to get them to school on time, etc. Be fair and impartial. So don't take sides. If you take sides, you will cultivate a gang situation. Make sure you get your facts right. So should a child ask you something, make sure you have the facts right. Don't misinterpret innocent remarks. Children can be quite cheeky and might just be having a laugh with you. Don't take it too seriously. Do maintain control at all times, because you must never allow safety to be compromised. As I've mentioned already, should you not be able to maintain control or your assistant maintain control, you stop that vehicle in a safe and legal place whilst you both deal with it. Do praise good behavior. Everybody likes praise, especially children. So when they do something good, praise that. Tell the teachers or the parents how good they've been in front of them. Do not find fault all the time. Do not pick on the child. That is a form of abuse. Your limits and authorities and responsibilities are detailed by your operator and the terms and conditions of the service contract. So guidelines. Always maintain a log. Have a diary in your car to record any incidents and especially allegations. Incidents can include bad behavior, conflict, aggressiveness, health and safety concerns, illness. Remember to take any names of witnesses. If you've got an assistant, you've got a ready-made witness, time and date of the incident, who you reported it to. I'll give you a straightforward example where the driver's been late. The date, he was late, 10 minutes for school. Time, vehicle he was driving, his name and driver number. It could be obviously a lot more detailed than that, depending on what the incident is. You must report any incidents and allegations immediately to the designated person, which is obviously your company and the contract provider. You need to nip allegations, especially in the bud. Meet them head on and let them know what's been said about you. You must never ever pick up friends of pupils or your passengers. Any extra passengers are breaking the rules of the contract and therefore negate your insurance. Your contract says you pick up this child from this address and take them to that school, and vice versa in the afternoon. Should your child say, I've got a new pal, they live in the next street to you, can you drop them off? The answer is no, you cannot. Extra passengers would also include parents. So mum or dad might say to you, can you drop me off at the train station on your way to school? You're going past it. The answer is no, believe it or not. It may be that the parents have had notification that they need to go in to speak to a teacher about their child's progress at school. Now, they could say to you, I need to go into school with you tomorrow with the child to speak to the teachers. If that's the case, you speak to your company and the contract provider and let them know that the following day that the parent would like to travel with you. Provided they give you permission, you are not breaking the rules of your contract and therefore your insurance is still valid, but you need to have permission. We talked about defending yourself. We talked about limits of your authority. You must never use physical restraint on a child or a young person. However, the only circumstances is where you can use physical restraint, where it's unavoidable. It's where the child could harm themselves or anybody else. So you must hold them firmly and do not use any more force than is necessary. You have to maintain absolute discretion and confidentiality with regard to the client's individual circumstances and requirements. However, this does not prevent you from reporting incidents. Should anything be affecting the job or the safety and health of that child, you need to report it as an incident. Should it help the efficiency of the job and help the company and the LEA and the parents, you will report it. What we are saying here, you do not gossip about the parents' social circumstances or the child's special needs, only if it helps the job. Obviously, if you've got a replacement driver, you need to relay the special needs of that child to that driver or to a replacement assistant. Many children suffer from travel sickness. So be prepared. Carry vomit bags like you would see on an airplane. If the child looks unwell, you should use careful questioning of the child. Do not ask personal questions. For example, you could also look at them and see, are they flushed? Are they sweating? Are they pale? Are they in pain? You can relay this back to the company or directly to the parent for advice on what to do next. As I've said, in these situations, it's usually the parent that carries out the contingency plan and advises you what to do. So in an emergency, you can go to A&E. A child suffers a severe asthma attack or has cut themselves very badly. If you have an assistant that can care for the child in the rear of the vehicle whilst you're driving, you take them to the nearest hospital, A&E department. Should you be on your own with the child, have no assistant, you phone 999 and wait for the paramedics ambulance to come to you. Thank you. This completes Unit 9. Review and check your understanding of this unit so that you're able to successfully pass your examination at the end. It also completes the full 9 units. Good luck with your exams, and thank you for listening to the presentation.